FBI director in the history of the FBI. That is real, because you are the only one that never even served with the FBI prior to joining, yet we are supposed to believe that
That's
you are
false.
the greatest thing since sliced bread. I didn't ask you a question.
That wasn't the end of it. Minutes later, Patel was given a direct chance to respond. This is the House Judiciary Committee, September 17th, 2025. Oversight of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, a roughly 5-hour hearing that, according to multiple news outlets covering it that day, also included heated exchanges over the Epstein files with Representatives Raskin, Swalwell, and Goldman. What you're about to see is the specific exchange with Representative Jasmine Crockett, the accusation, the chairman's defense, and Patel's own answer in order.
So before you were even confirmed, and I think one of my colleague from Georgia, pointed out that you were already targeting career officials so that you could direct illegal firings. Mind you, these cases that you were so upset about, which are the ones tied to Trump, the cases came through his handpicked FBI director. And frankly, when people sit around and say things like, oh, you know, we're happy because now we feel safe, I don't know who feels safe in this country except for the white supremacists, because I specifically as a black woman definitely don't feel safe. And frankly, my colleagues have been real nice to you today, and I applaud them, but I don't have the same demeanor because I know that multiple colleagues on this side of the aisle have faced death threats. In fact, somebody tried to kill one of my colleagues, and frankly, I don't know if this FBI or under your leadership, if those people would have been caught. I don't have any confidence in you. And if we start talking about the reasons that I lack confidence, we could start with you not just wanting to acknowledge some simple facts. Simple facts like the vast majority of the threats are coming from right-wing extremism. And I know my colleagues have tried to stress this, but I decided that I would maybe do it in a different way. Number one, I have a couple of UCs. Kim Buck, one of multiple Republicans receiving death threats for voting against Jim Jordan as House Speaker.
Without objection.
Another one, Republican lawmaker says she received death threats after voting against Jim Jordan in Speaker's race.
Without objection.
In addition, there was another one from another colleague who now is leaving Congress because they said that they were calling his wife anonymously and threatening her life to the extent that she ended up sleeping with a firearm.
Without objection.
Okay, so here's the deal. How are we supposed to have confidence when you're sitting up here telling the Senate yesterday that it will take you 14 years before you can get the FBI fully staffed to do their jobs? You're also now redirecting resources so that they can go and play ICE agents on the streets. You're getting rid of your most qualified people, and even when it came down to somebody that you consider to be a friend, you were posted up having some fancy dinner to the extent that you posted not only once erroneously, you posted twice erroneously as it relates to catching somebody, and then you want to go and say, let me take a victory lap. Because honestly, if it wasn't for parents deciding that they were going to turn in their child, it seems like y'all wouldn't have got there, even though he literally confessed online. So I'm confused about what it is that the FBI is doing except for trying to put on a show for the apprentice or whatever you want to call him. The day after all of this took place, there was domestic terrorism that was taking place at HBCUs. They were targeted. Yet I didn't hear anything from the FBI about what was going on. And again, black people kept saying, how did we end up in this? Because the numbers are so very clear that white supremacy is a problem. And honestly, I've not heard anything out of you today that makes me believe that you're going to do anything about the white supremacy problem, the one that is leading to children being killed, children being shot, as well as members of their community as they're worshiping in their churches.
Chairman Jordan responded before Patel got the chance to. It's worth noting that Jordan and Patel were, by that point, closely aligned allies. Jordan had shared Patel's own past investigations into what he called government weaponization, and Patel had dedicated part of his book to Jordan's committee work. That context doesn't make Jordan's resume list inaccurate. It's simply the relationship this response
Time
came
of the
from.
gentlelady's expired. If the gentleman would like to respond to any of that. Well, I mean, I'll respond. Kash Patel, as I said when I introduced him, public defender, former prosecutor, top staffer on the House Intelligence Committee, Deputy Director of National Intelligence with the National Security Council, Chief of Staff at the Department of Defense, and FBI Director. I think that's a pretty good resume for the guy who's now running the top law enforcement agency in our country. And we've seen all the stats that he's given to the committee on how much better they're doing at getting the bad guys.
A few minutes later, a different member, a Republican from South Carolina, gave Patel a direct opening to respond to Crockett himself, framing her questioning first as, in his words, a clickbait audition. Patel's answer that followed didn't address that framing or Crockett's specific claims. It went somewhere else entirely.
South Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Patel, I think you're witnessing some auditions, clickbait auditions for the Academy Award for my Democratic colleagues. We'll see how they fare as they're on MSNBC later on today. Do you care, before I launch into my line of questioning, to respond to Ms. Crockett from Texas on that very elaborate and theatric display?
Here's what I've learned in my government service. I don't give a damn what they say about me as long as I'm succeeding in the mission. We're succeeding in the mission because the men and women of the FBI have never been empowered to do more work and to hit the streets harder than by President Trump's authorities and resources he's given us. And so all I care about is that we are capturing more child predators than ever before, taking more drugs off the streets than ever before, that we are capturing murderers at a significantly historic rate, and we're delivering this country the lowest murder rate in recorded history. That are facts that you cannot dispute. But you can come at me all you
What
want.
is the full shape of this exchange? Crockett's core claim that Patel is the least qualified director in FB1 history because he never served inside the Bureau before taking the job went unanswered directly in her own 5 minutes. She raised a second, separate charge, too, that his FBI has been slow to publicly address threats and violence tied to right-wing extremism, including an HBCU threat she said went unaddressed. Neither claim was directly rebutted in this exchange. Jordan answered the qualifications question for him, listing a resume built entirely outside the FBI, public defender, prosecutor, national security posts, a Pentagon chief of staff role. And when Patel finally got his own chance to respond, he didn't address either of Crockett's specific claims. He pivoted to crime statistics. It's worth knowing this wasn't the only sharp exchange of that 5-hour hearing. According to contemporaneous reporting, Patel also sparred that same day with Representative Eric Swalwell over whether President Trump's name appears in the Epstein files, telling him at one point to spell it out if he was going to mock him. Ranking member Jamie Raskin opened the hearing by accusing Patel of going from, in Raskin's words, a crusader for accountability on Epstein to being part of the conspiracy and cover-up. None of that reporting is part of the clip you just watched. It's separate context from the same day, included here because it shapes how contested that entire hearing was. None of this is a verdict. Crockett's characterization, least qualified, a failure, is her own. Jordan's framing of that same resume as pretty good is his own. And Patel's claim about the lowest murder rate in recorded history is his own, offered without independent verification here. What's on the record is the sequence itself. 2 specific accusations, a defense built on a different kind of resume, and an answer that moved the conversation to different ground entirely. Subscribe for the next hearing, broken down clip by clip straight from the public record.